And what Gavin McKenna is doing is, Sidney Crosby too, for that matter. But what Gavin McKenna is doing is just something really, really impressive there. Dallas, Elliot. The coaching search, as we talked about, another name we should consider.
Yes, Kyle. So Texas lost to Abbotsford in the Western Conference Final of the AHL playoffs. So it's Abbotsford against Charlotte for the Calder Cup. And Dallas is going to have a big decision to make. We talked a little bit about Neil Graham last pod, their coach with the Texas Stars. Dallas is going to have a decision to make here about, whether or not he's ready now, or what do they do with him now? Keep him behind the bench in Texas, promote him to the big team. What do they do? Like, I think there's a realization there that they may lose him if he's not the guy. But another name that was mentioned to me is another current member of their staff in the NHL, and that is Alain Nasreddine. They said that he will be interviewed if he hasn't been interviewed already. I don't know the answer to this, but it was suspected by a couple people that Nasreddine may have interviewed elsewhere this year. But the feeling there is, and may have interviewed elsewhere this year. I do think potentially some other teams in the aftermath of DeBoer being fired reached out to Dallas to ask what Nasreddine's situation is. And I think for now, they're telling people he's part of our search. So, and it also fits, Nasreddine, who's been around a long time, was interim in New Jersey during a coaching change before Lindy Ruff was hired. So he has a tiny bit of experience as a head coach, although those are always very difficult situations. But, we'd mentioned that do not be surprised if Dallas goes different or fresh. And I had a couple of people say to me, you should add Nasreddine to your list, that it's not impossible he ends up the next head coach of the Stars.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, especially with Jim Nill saying they're looking externally and internally as they now begin a search, as you say, that a few weeks back they didn't anticipate they would be embarking on. All right, so Elliot, last pod we talked about the Vegas Golden Knights, Alex Pietrangelo, what his future could look like health-wise, and when if we may see him in uniform for the Golden Knights next year. And now rumors out there with William Karlsson potentially being out there on the trade block. What are you hearing in that regard?
Yeah, so again, I always want to stress this. As many of you who follow hockey, especially on social media, there's a lot of crazy stuff flying around at this time of year. And sometimes even for us who deal in it, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. And so I'm not interested in fighting anyone that's got William Karlsson's name out there. To be honest, I don't know really where it came from. All I'm going to say is that I got pushback from teams about Karlsson. Now, I haven't spoken to Vegas directly, and it's always possible, and I stress this, always possible that Vegas may be talking to one or two specific teams about him that I haven't found. But I will say, I asked a few people about Karlsson, and either they told me they're not under the impression he's available, or I suspect in at least one or two cases, they asked and were told no. They didn't come right out and say it, but the kind of way they talked about it made me feel it that way. So again, I don't think it's impossible. There might only be 10 or 15 guys in this league that are completely untouchable, but I asked around about Karlsson, and just the people I speak to, they told me they had either no indication Vegas was willing to do it, or had been specifically told Vegas wasn't doing it. So if Karlsson's available, and I stress if, it's a situation out there that I haven't found yet. I know they really like the player, because there was a time a while ago I heard something and I checked in on it, and I was told that they really liked the player. So again, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd have to show me what the situation would be.
Yeah, well, 2 years left on his deal, and AAV under 6, so you could see why other teams would be calling and saying, hey, what are you thinking there? Is there any chance?
And he's still a heck of a player. Like, he is still a really good player.
All right. Speaking of a heck of a player, TJ Oshie certainly was one for a long time. Whether it was in a St. Louis Blues uniform, Washington Capitals uniform, 1,010 regular season games in all over the course of his career. He announced his retirement on Monday. Stanley Cup champion in 2018. The brilliant shootout performance at the 2014 Olympics in Sochi. For myself, a player I would have covered a little more towards the back half of his career, mainly as a Washington Capital, Elliot, but always a joy to deal with because you got an honest answer out of him and was just a pleasant interaction. Your thoughts on the career of TJ Oshie?
Well, just a great player to deal with. I interviewed him actually right after that shootout in Sochi, and he was a great interview. I asked him to explain the move, and he broke it down for me. Really easy guy to deal with, friendly from a media point of view, and obviously turned into a heck of a player and a key piece of a Stanley Cup champion. You remember, like, Oshie had a couple of like he reminds me a lot of people, like early in his career, like as a young guy. There were some discipline issues he had to deal with here and there to figure out. And, sometimes the NHL and success, it comes so fast for you that you have to kind of figure it. Like, nobody's path is ever 100% linear, right? Like, there's always things that threaten to derail you. And to Oshie's credit, he figured it out. And he gave his body to the sport. He dragged himself over 1,000 games when clearly he was, battling to get there at times. He's somebody who clearly loved the game. I always remember his interview with Scott Oak when they won the Stanley Cup, and Oak asked him about his dad, and he's like, "Oh, and you're gonna make me cry here," But like, the guy was a true success story. A highly touted prospect who made it, played 1,000 games, won a Stanley Cup. Did well financially. Like, that's a career that a lot of people would kill to have. And he was always friendly to deal with. His company, which is Warroad, does a lot of the protective gear now, the cut resistant stuff. So he will continue to be in and around the game. Just, again, like, what about that guy's career now that it's over is anybody going to quibble with? He won everywhere. On the ice, off the ice, great career. I got nothing else to say. Respect, TJ Oshie.
Big time respect, Elliot. Big time respect. Anyone that can be part of the fountain celebrations, as Oshie was front and center in 2018, all part of a career that who wouldn't want to get a piece of that. So congratulations to him on a heck of a run.
I got to tell you, Kyle, I will never win any other awards in my career, but if I did, I will do a fountain celebration.
Oh, okay. Mark that, Tom. We're 356 days to the next Canadian Screen Award night, so countdown is on.
Yeah, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Okay, one other thing before we get to the final thought here, Elliot. Congratulations to the Trois-Rivières Lions, who captured the 2025 Kelly Cup Championship. 4-1 series victory over the Toledo Walleye. Their goaltender, Luke Cavallin, won the MVP of the playoffs. Elliot, 20 postseason appearances, allowed 2 goals or less in 17 of the 20 outings. He was incredible. Gave up 3 goals in the opener, the loss of the final. Toledo won 3-1. Gave up 1 goal in each of the ensuing 4 en route to a championship and an MVP.
Yeah, and he's